two stars are going to have to take that place. So I think this is going to be a time potentially to build someone like a Danny Garcia. If they want him to really be that main event guy, I don't see it. I don't think as he's at that level. What is up, everyone? Jim Alexander here with Real Talker. And yeah, you see a banner of AEW taking over. Looks like the city's Columbus. It's just a generic thing. I mean, geez, Keith Lee's up there. So it's kind of outdated. And it's not Timeless Tony Storm. Whatever. I just had to do something with some current people on it. Oh, look, it's Wardlow. We haven't seen him in 10 years. Anyway, so I'm here to talk about the fallout of All In. Like I said, this is going to be the fallout sort of where things are heading now, where things are heading on the road to All Out, okay, in Chicago in less than 2 weeks from All In. What's the fallout? Where can we see? We're gonna find out where sort of things come to place really quick because they have to. But you have All Out, you have Grand Slam coming up, busy September. So, what are the sort of things to expect? Okay, so quickly, a match card prediction for All Out. Jeez. Okay, things have already been planted. I think they've done a better job this year than in the previous years. So, at least last year, where that all out card was bad because it was just makeshift last moment. Okay, we know we're going to get a Saraya Jamie Hayter match probably, which should be fun. Good to see Jamie Hayter back making that return in the pre-show 0 hour at All In. But it's good to see she's been out for a while. She's got a new different look. And I think that'll be a solid, long built-in feud between these two. So this one makes sense. Saraya Jamie Hayter's for sure a match to book for All Out. We saw FTR versus Grizzled Young Vets who made their debut. That just makes sense as a match and probably is going to be a good brawler sort of match between those guys. So that's another one I pencil in. I'm sure they're going to continue the Will Nightingale and Chris Stanlander thing. So that's another one to pencil in. We know MJF versus Daniel Garcia is definitely going to happen at All Out. Makes sense. There's a built-in storyline there. Finally see Daniel Garcia in a high-profile match and opponent really here. They're pushing Danny, and let's see how he goes against MJF. And then I think the other one that sort of makes sense is and probably will be happening is Hangman Page versus Swerve Strickland. That was clearly built in as a long-term feud. Hangman's just his main mission is to take out Swerve, and who's the face there? Because Swerve's a quasi heel and Hangman's a heel. But who takes the face role in that sort of matchup? That's going to be something we've seen, but a solid. We know these two guys can work together, so that'll be run it back. And then who will Bryan Danielson fight? I think the safe money here, the one that makes sense, it's Christian Cage. Christian Cage just won. Was glad to see that happen. He did win the Casino Gauntlet, so he gets that world title shot. I don't think you hold out for that. They dropped the trios tag team championship, him and the patriarchy. So let's get it right away. It's the simplest thing to build because Danielson doesn't have an opponent really. You're not going to run it back with Swerve because why would you do it 2 pay-per-views 2 weeks apart? Plus, that's why they set up Hangman. A three-way match, wouldn't make sense. Really, because it's also you're just adding Hangman to it. I think you do Danielson versus Swerve again to get his rematch. I think they're gonna run it back in Tacoma, Washington in October for the Dream pay-per-view, whatever that one's called, the Dream, whatever, slipped my mind. But that makes sense. And maybe that's when Danielson drops to Swerve and retires after that. That could make sense. It could make sense since both him and Swerve are from Washington also. So that I would say for a little bit down the line, but Christian Cage makes a lot of sense versus Danielson. So two vets, two guys that really haven't faced each other. I don't believe. I don't remember at least a significant feud. Maybe they had a Souls match, but not a feud really. And that would be fire because two WWE guys and two guys on top of their game. Christian Cage, you know, literally just been on a run of his career. And yeah, so that makes sense to do because there hasn't been a hotter wrestler in the past year or so than Christian Cage in AEW. The only one I could see kind of rivaling that in terms of performance, the type of performance that he's put up has been incredible. It would be Tony Storm with her timeless gimmick, but these have been the two standout performers in the last year. Tony Storm might run it back with Mariah May. That's an interesting one to see. That's another possibility. So I don't like such a pay-per-view so close to the other because there's no time to build feuds and you're just running things back and things we've seen. So yeah, that wouldn't be the best case scenario, but I mean, they put on a solid match. So there's my thoughts for um, the follow-up, what happens after All Out, leading up to All In. Now, a little bit moving further, I don't see Daniel Bryan's reign lasting too long. I think he does retire, and it makes sense if he did it at Wrestle Dream. That's the pay-per-view name in Tacoma, Washington, against Swerve. Um, I think that would be making sense in a lot of ways. So I see that happening since, he's ready to hang it up anyway. But we'll get a few more months of Danielson in his last title run. I think that should be fun, nostalgic, and feel fresh too for the fans in so many ways. So, what do I expect for AEW to finish out this year? I think Danielson's going to hold that title, like I said. Probably get it back to Swerve to finish out the year with the title, since he had a pretty decent run. Because I don't think you're crowning anyone probably until maybe, well, there's Full Gear too. That's a big pay-per-view. Um, but who stepped up to be really ready for a champ? I'd love to see Christian Cage. I think he would definitely deserve to be the champion. I just don't see Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson dropping that title to him that soon, unless they hold Danielson to the end of sort of maybe to Full Gear, and then Christian Cage, they run it at Full Gear that match. That could work too. And then Christian Cage wins it. I think Christian Cage with the title run would be really fun and it would set up him versus Adam Copeland when Copeland returns to really blow off that feud once and for all and probably end Copeland's career too on a high note. And maybe Christian can wind down too, even though he's at the top of his game. So there's potential with that. Who are some of my breakout performers for the rest of this year to look out for? So when I'm looking at the roster, who I do consider that Hangman Page is probably gonna be on a nice run here on a heater. They sort of repackaged him, brought him back, gave him new music, pissed off gimmick. I think you're gonna see him, get back to that main event status for sure. I think that's someone to look out for. I think that guy that's going to get a lot of TV time and focus is going to be Swerve also. That's someone they brought in and he looked strong. And I think that's someone that's going to be actually sort of around the main event scene too. So I could see Swerve being that guy. And I think Jamie Hayter is getting pushed. I think she's going to come back, beat Saraya significantly, and sort of be in that level where you can see her eventually matched up with Mercedes Moné and probably take that title off of Moné. I think that's what Jamie Hayter is going to be billed in a big way with because they had big things for her, before that injury that really derailed everything for her. But she's young, she's got a new look, she looks great, and that's someone that you got to push into the future. So I see that happening too. So those are some sort of standout performance. Will we see Omega back? When will we see Kenny back? Will Adam Cole be making a return? Moxley hasn't been seen in a bit. Is he coming back soon? So there's going to be some vets that are going to be coming back and making their returns too. But there's only so much room, at the top of the marquee, really. And I think AEW is going to finish out on a strong way on a strong end this year because you sort of have a changing of the guard. The swan song for Bryan Danielson, you had that earlier in a year with Sting. So you see some of the old guard that's been really holding up, sort of fade into go into the limelight and ride out their final thing. And new stars are going to have to take that place. So I think this is going to be a time potentially to build someone like a Danny Garcia. If they want him to really be that main event guy, I don't see it. I don't think as he's at that level or really is a main event talent, a world champion sort of thing. But I think that's someone that's going to be pushed to the top. Obviously always going to have MJF there, but they are sort of bringing back some guys that have kind of fallen off, like Hangman, and bring him that. Swerve still is going to be at the top. I think he's a made guy going forward, so it should be interesting what's going to happen. I think still, like I said, I made that prediction for All In, but didn't help out because it didn't happen. But I do expect Shane McMahon to debut at some point. It's not going to be as big as it would be at All In, but I'm looking at Full Gear. I'm looking potentially, boy, would that be a game changer here at All Out. So Shane McMahon, I do still see being that big transformative thing, and probably asking, what's Shane McMahon? And he's not even technically a full-time wrestler. He's a corporate sort of guy. How is he going to change a company? The buzz that that's going to create for AEW, you can bring him on as a TV character, wrestle occasionally, set up some big matches, maybe down the road, but have him as sort of a GM authority figure that's going to cut out the nonsense. I think Shane McMahon on television would be huge and just a talking point that would have the wrestling community absolutely lose their minds over. So I think Shane's still coming. Don't hold out on Becky Lynch. I don't expect that to be happening. But that's sort of my 101 on the quick sort of fallout after all in, which was actually a solid pay-per-view. It was a fun pay-per-view, had some nice returns and surprises, and the debuts, and I thought just the right guy won at the end. Had a sort of a WrestleMania moment at their version of WrestleMania, and it should be, I think, a nice ride to the end of this year with AEW. Now we'll see what happens, what they go from there. But with Danielson, I think that it's some freshness, gives really some of the passionate fans really to kind of come aboard that ride and see his sort of swan song in the last few months, probably until he kind of goes away. And I'm sure Danielson will be back at some point, like Sting kind of was gone and then made his debut and kind of came into a storyline, not going to be wrestling potentially, or maybe wrestling those big kind of matches like, Cena does for WWE or has to this point. I kind of see Danielson that. It's not going to be his final match, retirement match for good. I think he's just, as an active full-time member of a roster, that's probably it for him. So yeah, that's kind of it. I think exciting times are coming. Some big pay-per-views ahead. Grand Slam first starts with All Out, Wrestle Dream, and of course Full Gear and World's End later on in the year. So some big pay-per-views now. We used to have like 4, but now it's every month. They become a monthly thing with AEW. So I'm expecting exciting things actually to round out this year. It hasn't been the best run in the last year or so for AEW, but I think there's some positive momentum now after All In. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments section. Do you foresee anything happening? I see the big debut that's still left to happen is Shane McMahon. Don't count on Becky Lynch. I don't think that's not happening, but Shane McMahon's still the one wild card they have that can really flip things upside down for this company in terms of buzz and interest, which they need right now because WWE's been on a heater for a while now. So, but All In, oh, jeez, I want to say All Out so bad. All In was a positive momentum, uh, gaining, gain, keep the steam up, that sort of thing. It was finally a show that um, people could kind of rally behind and going forward. So we'll see what happens, but those are my thoughts. Make sure to subscribe. Just click that subscribe button. Takes a second. It makes a difference. And if you like this, give me a thumbs up. So you know what to do that. And until next time, I am going to be coming back soon with all out thoughts, predictions, and, ultimately feedback and review on that. But until then, stay tuned to Real Talker and we'll see what AEW has in store for us. See ya.